Vhagar, no!
Most people watched that scene and saw an act of villainy, pure and simple. A boy torn in half above Shipbreaker Bay, and the war beginning in earnest. Everyone knows what Aemond did, Rhaenyra, Daemon, the realm itself, and every single one of them is wrong. Some say Aemond snapped and did what he had promised to do since Driftmark. Some say he only meant to frighten Luke and got carried away. Some say he's a kinslayer who found a story to hide behind afterwards. But listen to the words again. He is not shouting Dracarys. He is not commanding her to burn. He is screaming at his own dragon to obey him, and she is not obeying. The show didn't hide this. It was right in the middle of the frame, at the most dramatic moment of the entire first season, and yet the audience walked away believing they had witnessed a murder. The reason this matters so much isn't that it lets Aemond off. It's that it makes everything that follows so much worse. Let me take you through it, because once you see what actually killed Lucerys Velaryon, you cannot watch this war the same way again. The rule. We'll start with the thing this show has been telling you since the first episode, in a line that everybody quotes and almost nobody applies.
The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. They are a power man should never have trifled with.
Now everybody hears that as poetry, a king being wistful about his ancestors. It isn't. It is a technical statement about how this world works, and the series goes on to prove it over and over again. A sword does not have a mood. A sword does not get frightened, or bored, or furious. A sword does not remember the last thing that hurt it. A dragon is not a weapon. It is an animal with a rider on its back. The rider is one half of a negotiation, but a negotiation is a thing you can lose. Everybody in this story forgets that, constantly, because the Targaryens need the realm to believe they wield this power with absolute control. If the dragons are just weapons, then House Targaryen holds the biggest arsenal in the world, and the throne is rightfully theirs by cold arithmetic. The moment you admit the dragons cannot truly be mastered, you admit that the whole dynasty is built on a foundation that might collapse without warning. And House of the Dragon doesn't ask you to take that on faith. It shows you, with this exact dragon, well before Storm's End. Example 1. The Dragon Says No. Season 1, Episode 6. Laena Velaryon is dying in Pentos. The Maesters want to cut the child out of her, and she will not have it. She drags herself out to the courtyard, to the only thing in the world that answers to her and no one else, and she gives her dragon the one command that will end her suffering. Dracarys, burn me. And Vhagar does not do it. Go back and watch that scene again, because it is perhaps the single most important beat in the whole first season. Laena has to say it again, and again. The dragon that has burned 4,000 men into ash at the field of fire hesitates, and only obeys when Laena screams it at her. That is telling you, out loud, that this dragon is not an instrument. She has a will, and sometimes she decides against the command she's been given. Exhibit 2. The dragon chooses. Then Laena dies, and a boy walks across a beach in the dark to claim her. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. Aemond does not tame Vhagar. He does not break her. He walks up to the sleeping giant, and she ignores him. When he tries again, she rounds on him with her jaws open and fire in her throat, and she comes within a heartbeat of turning the second son of the king into a smear on the sand. It is not his commands that calm her. It is her decision to let him live, and let him ride on her back. Nobody hands Vhagar to Aemond because nobody could. She takes a new rider because it suits her, and then Aemond gets on her back and nearly falls to his death because he has no idea what he is sitting on. So by the time we reach Storm's End, Season 1 has already given you the evidence. A dragon can refuse a command. Each decision is the dragon's to make. Now let's go back to the storm. What Aemond actually came for. Watch what he asks for in that hall. Luke arrives at Storm's End to find Vhagar already outside, and Aemond standing at Boros Baratheon's shoulder, betrothal already agreed. Boros dismisses the boy, and Aemond steps in and demands his debt. An eye, as payment for an eye. One will do, he says. He wouldn't blind him. He wants to make a present of it for his mother. That is not a man who wants his nephew dead. Aemond wants a humiliation. He wants Luke to kneel and cut his own face and carry it for the rest of his life, exactly as Aemond does. He wants the debt paid in kind. Luke refuses. I came as a messenger, not a warrior, and not a sacrifice, Luke says, and Aemond calls him a craven traitor and swears he will have the eye or the life. And then Boros stands up and states that the boy came here as an envoy and no blood will be shed beneath his roof. Aemond, with the largest dragon in the world sitting outside, defers to Boros and watches Luke walk out of the door alive. That is not the behaviour of an assassin. That is the behaviour of a boy who has been denied his fair settlement. And then he mounts up in fury. Now, it's important to understand that nothing in the next 4 minutes makes Aemond innocent. He straps himself onto 180 years of fire and goes hunting a child through a thunderstorm. But look at what he does up there, and more importantly, what he doesn't do. He does not say Dracarys. He does not close in and finish it, and he could. Vhagar dwarfs Arrax. He is doing to Luke in the air exactly what he tried to do in the hall. He is frightening him. He wants the boy to land and beg and pay. And the storm takes it out of both their hands. Luke loses control first. Arrax is a young dragon, panicked, cornered by something monstrous in the dark. Luke is screaming at him to hold, and instead, Arrax turns and fires. A jet of flame straight into Vhagar's face, against his rider's command. The first act of the dance, the shot that starts a civil war and burns half of Westeros, is fired by a frightened child's dragon who has stopped listening to him. All Arrax achieves is to awaken something within the oldest animal in the world. Here is the part that should have ended the debate forever. Vhagar goes after Arrax, and Aemond tries to stop her. That's not an interpretation, that's what happens on the screen. He hauls at the reins, he shouts, and when she breaks through the cloud and takes the boy, the sound coming out of Aemond is not one of triumph. He is screaming no, he is screaming, "Serve me, Vhagar." He shouts it in the common tongue, and he shouts it in High Valyrian, the same demand he made on the beach at Driftmark, the demand that worked. And this time, it does nothing at all, because Vhagar is beyond taking instructions. She is doing what she did at the Field of Fire, what she was doing 150 years before Aemond was born. She is making the decision for herself. The detail that should put what actually happened beyond doubt comes moments earlier. During the chase, Aemond is laughing. It's the cruel sound of him enjoying striking fear into the boy, and it stops the instant Vhagar stops listening. Then, in a flash, it's over. Arrax falls out of the sky in pieces, and Aemond sits on Vhagar's back with his mouth open and his eye wide. He is high over the water, and he has just discovered that his faithful servant is a rogue weapon. What deliberate looks like. Now, if you still want to argue that the screaming was theatre, that Aemond meant it all along, the show has an answer for you. Because in Season 2, we get to see exactly what Aemond looks like when he does intend to kill someone. Rook's Rest. His own brother is in the air, and Aemond is sitting atop Vhagar beneath the tree line, simply waiting. He watches Aegon's dragon get mauled, and he ignores the signal. When he finally does rise up, he directs Vhagar's dragonfire onto Sunfire and burns the King of the Seven Kingdoms out of the sky. Then he lands, walks over to his brother's broken body, and draws his sword. Only Criston Cole, stumbling out of the smoke, stops him from finishing it. There is no screaming this time. There is no hauling on the chains. Aemond is a man who has decided, and Vhagar decides to do what he asks in this instance. This difference is the whole case in one comparison. At Rook's Rest, Aemond gets what he came for and says nothing. At Storm's End, Aemond gets a dead child and cannot stop screaming. And the man who wrote it will tell you the same. Ryan Condal has said plainly that in Fire and Blood, Aemond means to kill Luke, and that the show changed it. But listen to how he refuses to let Aemond off the hook. He disputes the word accident, Because Aemond got onto a giant dragon and chased a child through the clouds, screaming, incensing his own animal, with no idea how the boy or Arrax would react. He did a horrible, dangerous thing, and it ended in horror. The lie everyone needs. So here is the pivot this entire video has been building toward. Aemond's account of that night is the true one, and not one person in the story will ever believe him, because not one person in the story can afford to. Watch how fast it hardens into fact. Rhaenys, the most careful head on either side, the one still hunting for a way out of this war, sits in council listing the wounds that brought them here, and she says it plainly. When Aemond killed Luke. Not when Vhagar killed Luke. It doesn't occur to her to phrase it any other way, and nobody present corrects her. Rhaenyra never entertains a second version either. She comes back from the shoreline with what's left of her son and gives her council 4 words. I want Aemond Targaryen. Daemon takes that as a war order, sends 2 assassins into the Red Keep to find the man who murdered Luke, and because they cannot find him, a different child dies in a nursery instead. And on the green side? They don't defend him either. Alicent blames him to his face for starting the war in earnest, and Aemond has to sit and be told he's the reason the realm is burning. Nobody argues the truth, not even the man it would save. And that is the terrifying part, because think about what the truth would actually cost each of them. If Vhagar killed Luke, then Rhaenyra has no crime to go to war over, only a tragic accident. The Greens have no all-powerful weapon on their side, just a boy on a beast he can't control. Aemond Targaryen isn't the most dangerous man in Westeros, he's just a scared passenger. So all of them, on both sides, settle on the same story. They call it a murder. The Blacks need a villain to justify a war. The Greens need a weapon to win one. And Aemond needs to be feared more than he needs to be innocent. So he stops explaining, puts on the eye patch and the sapphire, and lets the realm call him Kinslayer. And he becomes the thing they've all decided he is. So go back and watch him fly home. He does not fly home a victor, but instead comes home carrying a burden he cannot admit. His sister sees it before anyone else does. After he claimed Vhagar, she says, he forgot what fear was. But he remembers now. She is not talking about Rhaenyra's new dragons. She is talking about the thing he found out over Shipbreaker Bay and has been carrying ever since. That the most powerful creature in the world is not his, and never was, and the only person in Westeros who knows it is him. Now tell me where you actually put the blame. On Aemond, who mounted up in a rage and chased a boy into a storm. On Luke, whose dragon fired the first shot. On Boros, who broke it up in his hall and then let both of them fly into the same sky. Or on Vhagar, the one thing in this story that nobody has ever controlled. Drop your verdict in the comments, and if you want more of these videos, be sure to subscribe. There are lots more of them coming.